Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Los Angeles had seen its share of family secrets, stolen identities, hidden children, and DNA bombshells, but nothing could have prepared Dylan for the truth that was about to shatter everything she believed about her past, especially now that her relationship with Will Spencer had become the one stable thing in a life filled with unanswered questions. Dylan had tried for weeks to convince herself that she did not need to know where she came from. She told Will that the past was the past, that whoever had abandoned her had already made their choice, and that she wanted to focus on building a future with him instead. Will wanted to believe her because he could see how much pain the subject caused her, but he also knew Dylan well enough to recognize when she was pretending. Every time someone mentioned family, every time Will casually talked about Bill, Katie, Liam, or the complicated Spencer history, Dylan's expression changed. She would smile, but the sadness in her eyes told a very different story. Will understood that being part of a huge family could sometimes feel overwhelming, but Dylan had the opposite problem. She had spent most of her life feeling as though a piece of her identity had been ripped away before she even had a chance to understand it. What neither Dylan nor Will knew was that Finn had quietly begun uncovering answers. It started innocently enough when Dylan had visited the hospital after experiencing dizziness and stress-related symptoms. Finn had treated her, and during the examination he noticed something unusual in her medical history. Dylan had almost no reliable information about hereditary illnesses, genetic conditions, or even basic family health patterns. Finn asked a few routine questions, but Dylan immediately became uncomfortable and admitted that she had never known her biological father. Her mother had refused to discuss him, and whenever Dylan pushed for details, she was told only that the man had disappeared before she was old enough to remember him. Finn did not intend to interfere, but the situation struck a personal nerve. After everything Finn had learned about his own complicated biological family, he understood better than most how devastating it could be to discover that the people who raised you had hidden the truth. He also understood how dangerous it could be medically when important family history remained unknown. Dylan agreed to some additional genetic testing, believing it was purely for health reasons, but the results opened a door no one expected. There was a genetic marker that connected to an existing record in the hospital system, and Finn initially assumed it was a coincidence. He double-checked the information, then checked it again because what he saw seemed almost impossible. The connection was strong enough that Finn knew he could not simply dismiss it. Someone Dylan was related to had been treated in Los Angeles before, and the closer Finn looked, the more disturbing the possibility became. He knew medical privacy rules prevented him from recklessly sharing another person's information, but after further testing was properly authorized and Dylan agreed that she wanted answers about her biological background, Finn found himself staring at a result that would change her life. Her biological father was not some anonymous man living far away. He was someone connected to the world Dylan had already entered through Will. Someone whose name could send shockwaves through both the Spencer and Forrester families. Finn sat alone in his office holding the report, wondering how he could possibly tell her. He knew what it felt like to discover that your biological parent was not who you expected. He remembered his own confusion, anger, and fear. That was exactly why he refused to let Dylan hear the truth through gossip or accidentally stumble across the paperwork. She deserved compassion. She deserved the truth directly. Still, Finn hesitated because this revelation did not belong to Dylan alone. It could affect Will, their relationship, and several families whose histories were already dangerously intertwined. Meanwhile, Dylan was at Forrester Creations with Will, trying to pretend everything was normal. Will had become increasingly protective of her, partly because he knew certain people questioned Dylan's motives. Katie had warned him more than once that romance could make a Spencer ignore warning signs, and Bill had been even less subtle, suggesting Dylan needed to prove that she loved Will rather than the Spencer name. Dylan had been deeply hurt by those accusations. She did not want Bill's money, his company, or his approval. She wanted Will. That was why the uncertainty surrounding her own father had started to bother her even more. Will knew exactly where he came from, even if the Spencer family tree was messy. Dylan had nothing but silence. When Finn called and asked Dylan to come to the hospital, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Will noticed her face turn pale as she listened. "Is it the test?" he asked after she ended the call. Dylan tried to laugh it off, but her hands were trembling. She told him Finn said it was not an emergency, only that they needed to discuss something in person. Will instantly offered to go with her. Dylan initially refused because she feared what the appointment might reveal, but after taking 2 steps toward the elevator, she turned around and quietly admitted that she did not want to hear bad news alone. Will took her hand and promised she would not have to. When they arrived at the hospital, Finn was waiting. His serious expression made Dylan's anxiety rise. She sat across from him while Will remained beside her, his fingers wrapped around hers. Finn began carefully, explaining that the genetic workup had revealed information beyond the health screening they originally expected. Dylan's first fear was that she had inherited some serious disease, and she immediately asked whether she was sick. Finn reassured her that this was not about a life-threatening diagnosis. Dylan exhaled, but Finn did not look relieved. He told her the tests had uncovered a familial connection. Dylan froze. Will glanced between them, instantly understanding what Finn meant before Dylan was ready to accept it. "My father," she whispered. Finn nodded. Dylan pulled her hand away from Will's, not because she was angry with him but because she suddenly felt trapped inside her own body. She had imagined this moment hundreds of times. Sometimes she pictured learning her father was dead. Sometimes she imagined finding an ordinary man who had made a terrible mistake and regretted leaving her. Sometimes she dreamed that he had searched for her but could never find her. What she had never imagined was Finn sitting across from her with an actual answer. Dylan asked how certain he was. Finn explained that the genetic evidence was extremely strong, and that additional confirmation had removed any reasonable doubt. Dylan's eyes filled immediately, but she refused to cry. She wanted the name. Finn hesitated. Will squeezed her shoulder. Dylan's voice rose as she demanded that Finn stop protecting her from something she had spent her entire life trying to discover. "Tell me who he is." Finn finally turned the report toward her, but Dylan could not make herself look down. She stared directly into Finn's eyes instead. Finn quietly said the man's name. For several seconds Dylan did not react at all. Then her face changed completely. She shook her head once, then again, as if denial alone could erase the words. "No, that can't be true." Will's expression turned to shock as the meaning hit him too. Dylan finally grabbed the report and scanned the page. Her hands began shaking so violently that the paper rattled. The name was there. The DNA percentages were there. The clinical explanation was there. Everything she had been denied her entire life suddenly existed in black and white. Dylan stood so quickly that her chair scraped across the floor. She accused Finn of making a mistake. Finn calmly said he had checked more than once because he knew how serious the revelation was. Dylan demanded to know whether her biological father knew about her. That was the question Finn could not answer. The test proved biology. It did not prove what the man knew or when he knew it. That uncertainty broke through Dylan's final defenses. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she whispered that someone had allowed her to grow up believing she had been unwanted. Will immediately moved toward her, but Dylan backed away. She loved him, yet suddenly everything about the Spencer world around her felt tangled with the secret she had just uncovered. "How long has everyone known?" she asked. Will insisted he had known nothing. Finn supported him, explaining that Will had not been part of the investigation. Dylan believed Will, but her panic was stronger than logic. She began wondering whether Bill knew, whether Katie knew, whether someone had recognized her and kept quiet, whether every warning she had received about staying away from the Spencers had another meaning beneath it. Will told her not to assume the worst, but Dylan snapped that assuming the worst was difficult to avoid when her entire childhood had been built around a lie. Finn stepped closer and told Dylan something he wished someone had told him when his own biological truth changed his life. DNA could explain where she came from, but it did not get to decide who she was. Dylan listened, tears still flowing, yet she could not stop staring at the report. Her father had a name. Her father had a face. Most painfully, her father had apparently been close enough to cross into her world without either of them realizing what they were to each other. Will asked Finn what happened next. Finn said the choice belonged to Dylan. She could confront the man immediately, wait until she had processed the news, or decide she did not want a relationship at all. Dylan laughed bitterly through her tears. "A relationship? I don't even know if he wanted me." She folded the report and pressed it against her chest. Then she asked Will to take her somewhere private. They left the hospital and drove to the beach, a place Will had taken her before when she needed to escape the constant noise of Los Angeles. Dylan stood near the water with her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Will remained a few steps away, sensing that she needed room. After several minutes, Dylan finally spoke. She said she had always thought finding her father would make her feel complete. Instead, she felt more broken than before. She asked Will what kind of man could have a daughter and never come looking for her. Will told her they did not yet know the entire story. Maybe the man had never been told she existed. Maybe someone had deliberately kept them apart. Dylan wanted to believe that, but hope frightened her almost as much as rejection. If she confronted her father and learned that he had known about her all along, she did not know how she would survive it. Will stepped closer and reminded her that she had already survived years without him. Dylan looked at Will and finally allowed herself to collapse into his arms. She cried against his chest, not delicately but with years of buried anger finally pouring out. Will held her while she confessed the truth she had hidden from everyone. She had spent countless birthdays wondering whether her father remembered the date. She had watched girls dance with their fathers at weddings, and wondered whether she would ever know that feeling. She had pretended she did not care because admitting she cared made the abandonment hurt more. Will kissed her forehead and told her she never needed to pretend with him. Dylan looked up and asked the question he had been dreading. What if this changes us? Will answered immediately. It did not change the way he felt about her. Dylan said he could not promise that because the identity of her father might pull them into a family war neither of them understood yet. Will said the Spencer family had survived scandals, betrayals, and revelations for decades. If Dylan's truth caused another storm, then they would face it together. Back at the hospital, Finn was still troubled. Steffi found him distracted and asked what was wrong. Finn refused to reveal Dylan's private information, but admitted that he had delivered news to someone that reminded him of his own past. Steffi immediately understood why he seemed shaken. She told him that being the person who reveals a life-changing truth can feel like causing the pain, even when the lie existed long before you discovered it. Finn said that was exactly what bothered him. Dylan had walked into his office hoping for medical reassurance, and walked out questioning everything she knew about herself. Steffi reminded him that the alternative would have been allowing her to live inside a false history. Finn knew she was right, but he also knew the situation was not finished. A DNA result this explosive would not remain private forever. Dylan eventually returned to Will's place, but she could not sleep. She kept unfolding the report, reading the name, folding it again, and pacing the room. Will finally asked what she wanted to do. Dylan said she wanted answers directly from her father. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. Will asked whether she was sure. Dylan admitted she was terrified, but she was more terrified of spending another night creating explanations in her own head. Will agreed to support her, though he suggested letting Finn arrange the meeting so the confrontation did not happen publicly. The following day, Finn made the call. The man on the other end was confused when Finn said the matter involved Dylan. That reaction gave Finn no clue whether he truly knew the secret or was simply pretending. Finn arranged for him to come to the hospital under the understanding that the subject was serious and personal. Dylan waited in a private consultation room with Will. Her knee bounced nervously as she stared at the door. She told Will that if her father walked in and denied everything, she wanted Will to stop her from falling apart. Will said he would not stop her from feeling anything. He would simply make sure she did not face it alone. Then footsteps approached. The door opened. Dylan looked up, and the man whose name had haunted her since Finn's revelation walked into the room. His expression shifted from confusion to concern when he saw Dylan crying. Finn closed the door behind him. For a long moment nobody spoke. Dylan finally stood and asked one simple question. "Do you know who I am?" The man answered cautiously that he knew her as Will's girlfriend. Dylan's face twisted with pain. She held up the DNA report. "That's not what I asked." Will watched the color drain from the man's face as he recognized the hospital paperwork. Dylan walked toward him and asked whether he had ever known her mother. The room went silent. That silence was an answer before any words came. Dylan began crying again. "You did know her." The man tried to explain, but Dylan interrupted, demanding the truth. He admitted that years ago there had been a relationship, brief but intense, that ended badly. He said he had been told there was no pregnancy. Dylan stared at him, searching his face for a lie. "You're saying you didn't know about me?" He swore he had not. Dylan wanted desperately to believe him, but decades of hurt did not disappear because of one sentence. She asked why her mother would have hidden her. The man said he did not know, though he admitted their relationship had ended with anger, accusations, and a promise that she never wanted to see him again. Finn explained that the DNA evidence was conclusive. The man looked at Dylan with a mixture of shock, regret, and something that looked dangerously close to love. He whispered that he had a daughter. Dylan immediately recoiled. "Don't call me that, like you earned it." The words hit him hard. Will stepped forward, but Dylan raised a hand to stop him. This confrontation belonged to her. She told her biological father about the birthdays, the unanswered questions, and the years of believing she had been abandoned. She said maybe he truly had not known, but she had paid the price for someone else's secret every single day. The man apologized, though he admitted that sorry could never restore the years they had lost. Dylan asked whether he would have wanted her if he had known. This time he did not hesitate. He said yes. Dylan broke down completely. It was the answer she had dreamed of hearing her entire life, yet receiving it now only showed her how much had been stolen from them. She covered her face and sobbed. Will wrapped an arm around her, and even Finn had to look away for a moment. Her father took one step closer but stopped when Dylan flinched. He told her he would not force himself into her life. If she wanted him gone, he would go. If she needed time, he would give her time. But if she ever wanted answers, he would tell her everything. Dylan slowly lowered her hands. Her tears had not stopped, but something inside her had changed. For the first time, she was looking at her past instead of imagining it. She told him that she did not know whether she could forgive anyone yet. She did not know whether she wanted a father, a stranger, or simply the truth. But she did know one thing. She refused to let anyone lie to her again. Her father agreed. Dylan looked down at the DNA report one more time before turning toward Will. Will took her hand. She squeezed it tightly and said she needed to leave. As the couple walked out, her biological father remained frozen in the room, staring after the daughter he had just discovered. Finn warned him that Dylan was overwhelmed and that pushing her would only make things worse. The man nodded, visibly shaken, then asked Finn whether Dylan was happy with Will. Finn replied that from what he had seen, Will cared about her deeply. The man gave a sad smile and said perhaps that was more than he had any right to ask for. Outside, Dylan leaned against Will and admitted she still felt as though the ground beneath her had disappeared. Will told her they did not need to solve everything today. She had her answer, but she was allowed to decide what that answer meant. Dylan looked through the hospital window toward the room where her biological father remained and whispered that part of her wanted to run back inside and ask 1,000 questions. Another part wanted to run as far away as possible. Will said both feelings were understandable. Dylan then asked whether he was scared of what this revelation could mean for them. Will smiled softly and told her the only thing that scared him was the possibility that she might push him away because she thought she had to handle everything alone. Dylan reached up and touched his face. "I don't want to lose you." Will promised she would not, but neither of them noticed someone watching from the far end of the corridor. Someone who had clearly recognized Dylan's biological father, and understood immediately that Finn's discovery could ignite a much larger scandal. By that evening, whispers had already started. Bill received a mysterious message telling him there was something he needed to know about Dylan. Katie noticed Will acting strangely and demanded to know whether Dylan was in trouble.